Hello everyone and welcome to Spoiler Warning featuring myself, Tom Colohue. We are of course a wrestling news show and we have plenty of wrestling news for you today. We're talking The Rock's position as regards rumours of him appearing at SummerSlam, Bray Wyatt and particularly his ongoing relationship with Vince McMahon. A lot more details to where Bray Wyatt has actually been and what kicked this whole thing off. Gable Steveson and, to be blunt, his overall failing so far in WWE. LA Knight kicking off his push. Jimmy Uso's return schedule. Drew McIntyre versus Gunter and how long they've been putting that one together. The Damian Priest push and how far you can expect that to go. Rey Mysterio's head injury. A little bit on Paul Heyman and Imperium. The Street Profits split. The New Day. And of course Dragunov as well. So plenty to discuss. And plenty really to cover as well. So we're going to be diving into all of these and of course answering as many of your questions as we can. Please be sure that everyone says hi and of course hits like as well. We have 30 people here already and 19 likes. So let's get the chat rate going. Let's get the likes pumping up as I start off with our first piece of news, which if you've been watching the shorts will not be a surprise to you. No, The Rock is not currently scheduled for SummerSlam. I know that there's suddenly been 1,000 reports out there that The Rock is going to turn up and work with Grayson Waller. There is no intention at this point in time for The Rock to make any WWE appearances. If you remember back at WrestleMania, back at Royal Rumble, back at last year's WrestleMania, I've always been the guy sat here saying no, The Rock's not going to be there, and The Rock continues to not be there. I've received a number of DMs on Twitter, is that what we're calling it now? Like Twitter, but worse. A number of DMs essentially saying to me, no, but you're wrong, The Rock's going to be there. This other person said so. If you bring zero news to me and say that, oh, they said you're wrong because what they say is different, I'm going to laugh at you. I need to make that clear. I'm going to laugh at you if you're one of the ones who's done that, because my God, how are there so many of you? There are no plans at the moment for The Rock to make any appearance at SummerSlam or in fact any other WWE event going forwards. If there is any potential for him to appear at SummerSlam, then my God, are they doing a great job hiding it. We have questions already in. I'm going to say hi to everyone before we do that because plenty to say hi to. Hello Airwolf, hello Daz, hello CM, hello Jordan, hello Aaron, hello Brad. Yes indeed, we are talking Bray here. Hello Richard, hello Sai. Thank you very much again for the constant work for the overlays. I very much appreciate it. Hello to Leon, Daniela, Joey, Razar, Matthew Johnson, Dom, Charles, Williams. So many people already on the YouTube side. I will be getting to your questions, I promise you, right after I say hi to everyone. And then on the Twitch side, hello to Spider Boss, Michael, Sean as well. Hello everybody. Thank you very kindly for joining me. Now some of these questions that we are seeing coming in already. Joey says, SRS reported Vince scrap plans for the Way reunion. Have you heard this too? I did previously mention that the Way was going to be getting together. I did report this many days ago. Unfortunately, I've also reported recently that the Way is on creative hiatus. One of the members-only videos I'll be making in the coming days is a breakdown of what the situation is for creative hiatus and for a number of different wrestlers who are currently undertaking creative hiatus. There's a lot to cover in that ground. That'll be members only because it's basically a glossary of terms sort of thing. Charles says, I'm so sick and tired of the way WWE is treating Bray Wyatt. More on that very shortly because I'm not entirely sure this is just WWE's fault. Dad says, Tom, do you think there'll be a stipulation for Cody and Brock? There's been plenty of reports stating that, all of which originated, of course, with Brian Alvarez. Hello, Ed. How are you? Hello, Noob. Hello, Anand as well. Good to see so many of you. Joey says it's probably Vince keeping Bray off TV. It is not. Dylan says, hi, Tom. Hello, Dylan. How are you? Spider-Boss says, do you think Damian Priest may cash in at SummerSlam? He may. Spider-Boss also says, pardon me, who do you think will be the one to defeat Austin Theory for the US title? More on that shortly. Hello, Michael. Hello, Sean. Michael says, did WWE pull Charlotte and Liv from the movie they were supposed to be in? I don't get why they would be pulled. There's been no situation recently where the WWE has pulled anyone from a film they were scheduled in. They will be made available as soon as they are required, to my knowledge. Spider-Boss says, it got me thinking when Roman said Jay became main event only because Jimmy was injured. Made me think Jimmy could turn up against Jay. More on that shortly for Jimmy Uso's return schedule. Michael says, how can Zero News get it wrong so many times? You get it right so many times and people believe Zero News over you. Worse is when people who actually come and watch Spoiler Warning jump in my DMs and start arguing with me because what has been proven a fact was reported by someone else to be wrong. If you believe someone else, ask them. Why would you bother asking me? Spider-Boss says, in an interview with the Toronto Sun, Kevin Owens said he has 1.5 years left on his deal with WWE, which is true. I expect when we get into that last year, there'll be a new signing. Charles says, an early poster for Survivor Series was shown today. Cody and Seth are front and centre. The Usos are on the poster. No Becky and no sign of Roman. No, this is just a standard rotationary policy. Cody and Seth are the big names on Raw. The Usos are big names on SmackDown. Ooh, we are catching up nearly there. Razar says SummerSlam is having 10 matches, it seems. NXT had 6 matches last night and the show was paced really well, ended in 2.5 hours. I think 10 won't be too bad if they pace it. It is slightly more than Triple H was looking for, but he has kicked off one match to make room for another. Hello Bruce, how are you? Richard says, hello Tom, is there a plan for the SummerSlam Battle Royal to get a number one contenders match for the brand they are on? It depends what you mean by number one contenders match. The winner looks set to get a United States Championship match. Marcel says, hi Tom. Hello Marcel. Spider-Boss says, The Rock appearing in WWE. I guess Meltzer came up with that news again. Quite possibly. It's hard to tell nowadays. It's very hard to tell because everyone's taking credit for other people's news. Dracopedia says, well said Tom. Hope you're having a good day and night. I think LA Knight will be getting a push following SummerSlam. Dracopedia, I think it was about 3 weeks ago, I did report that there is a push coming for LA Knight right after SummerSlam. The only reason it hasn't already happened is that it would be getting in the way of other people, in this case Santos Escobar. Anan says, any update on the Street Profits and Bianca's heel turn? I did report quite a lot on this on Friday, spoiler warning. I advise you to check it out if you haven't already. Billy Crystal says, good evening Tom. Good evening Billy, how are you? Bailey says, does the WWE have any long-term plans for Alba Fire and Isla Dawn? They disappeared. They have, and there are no long-term plans at this point in time. The intention essentially was to use the Tag Team Championships at least briefly on separate brands and use the NXT ones as their own version. However, a number of women picked up injuries, and let's just say Ronda Rousey insisted. Richard says, hello Tom, do you know why the US title match was after SummerSlam and not before? Yes, I do. More on that shortly. Richard Smith says, really hope Gunter retains Sunday so he can become the longest IC champion in WWE history. I certainly think that's a possibility, though there will be more on that shortly. Bob says, rest in peace, exotic Adrian Street. Thank you for saying that, Bob. I know someone said it earlier. I didn't read it at that time, but I'm very glad to see it and to be able to echo those sentiments. Thank you. RIP's in the chat, if you please. Anan says, update on LA Knight's push. There is a LA Knight video in my members only section at the moment. In about 2 weeks, that will be going live on the main channel. I advise you to check it out. Eric says, good evening, Tom. Good evening, Eric. Thank you very much for joining us. Charles said, I saw an interview where Jay said he wouldn't mind facing his brother Jimmy before he retired from wrestling. Again, more on that shortly. Chris forgot about the show today. Shame on you, Chris. Shame on you, but not really. Razar says, is Rhea still having a match at SummerSlam? Seems most likely, yes, that is the intention. Spider-Boss says, do you think people may get tired of the Judgment Day of them appearing on Raw and NXT so often? Nope, because it took a long time for there to be any issue with the Bloodline appearing on both. Noob also sharing an RIP for Pee Wee Herman. If there is someone that's important to you that you knew, that you were a fan of, this is certainly a good avenue for it. I'll be happy to read that out. Pee Wee Herman, unfortunately not someone I'm particularly familiar with. Joey says, Dragunov and Mello was a great match last night. I wonder if Dragunov is being considered for a call-up. More on that shortly. SES Vince says, is there any update on the injury Rey Mysterio sustained on SmackDown? Yes, there is. It's our 6th piece of news. Once I get through the questions, I will be diving further into what's going on there. Wrestler Fan says, will Becky and Trish and Raquel versus Rhea be added to SummerSlam tonight on Raw? Not sure, but they are still planned for the show. If not, they'll be moved on to the Raw either tonight or after. I think Becky and Trish is guaranteed. Rhea versus Raquel might be moved off. Dracopedia says, hope Ray is doing okay. Heard he got hurt and that was why the match ended awkwardly. It is indeed. Mark Delson says, Tom, who's the real AEW champ, don't sit on the fence. MJF in every way, shape or form. It is MJF. I don't sit on the fence. I tell it like it is. Ross says, sorry I'm late, Tom. Did I miss anything? A little bit on The Rock. Rumours of The Rock appearing at SummerSlam. He's not currently planned for any WWE appearances. Richard says, hello, Tom. Will the SummerSlam Battle Royal contestants be from both Raw and SmackDown? Yes, they will. We will be seeing both Raw and SmackDown represented. Joey said, what was the point of calling people up if there's no plan for them? Because there was a plan at the time that they were called up. However, those plans have changed since. Somewhat between Vince McMahon and Triple H disagreeing on people, but beyond that it's also a case of injuries, availability, and LA Knight, for example, getting a lot more heat behind his name. So they've gone for pushing LA Knight, for example, when they were planning to push other people. Eric says, Tom, two-part question, both about last night. Do you think Gable deserved a better dance partner? 2, really thought Ali's big moment was coming last night and convinced that it's never going to happen. More on that shortly. Anand says, do you think the Judgment Day will dethrone Sami and KO for the tag titles? Nope. There were talks of new designs of tag titles. Any update on that? Nope. Unfortunately, I've not heard anything about new tag titles at this point in time. Sean says the IWC has run Cora Jade off. Yep, she's not the first and she won't be the last. The IWC is a fucking menace. Mark says, I'm catching up now. Just seen you saying The Rock isn't coming. Not shocked, they just need to give up with that news now. A lot of people are really invested in it. Like I say, it's a situation whereby if he is coming, they've done a hell of a job hiding it. Squid says, hi Tom, late, gonna rewind, hope all is well. All is well, Squid, welcome to the show. Eric says, The Rock showing up at SummerSlam to confront Grayson Waller has the same chance as Eddie Guerrero. It doesn't. Ronnie Southern says, good evening, Tom. Have you had a chance to watch Cody's documentary yet? No, I have not, and honestly, because I work full-time, I don't necessarily think that moment will come. Charles says, will Lita return? Only backstage seems likely. Sean says, Johnny Gargano returned at a live event over the weekend. He lost to Omos. That is different to returning on TV. There are at the moment no plans that are creatively linked to Johnny Gargano. If we see him, it won't necessarily be a kickoff to a feud or a long-term storyline. Michael says, so The Rock is booked for Survivor Series. Got it. Nobody ever believes it. Anand says, do you think Judgment Day will turn on Finn once Damian Priest cashes in and becomes heavyweight champion? Not sure on that one. It really does depend what the matches are booked for. Personally, I'd rather see Finn lose the match and then Damian Priest cash in. Drakipedia says, could we see Bron Breakker showing up following SummerSlam? Yes, because he's not going to appear before SummerSlam. Christian says, how's it going, Tom? Doing very well, thank you, Christian. Welcome to the show. Joey says, Vinnie Mac doesn't like pushing new people, which simply is not true because most of the people on TV right now were initially pushed as new people by Vince McMahon. Razar says, Gable Stevenson had the crowd turning on him already. They were chanting, you're not Angle at him. It was kind of funny. Joey says, Meltzer in Zero News, clickbait every year of The Rock showing up. Everyone does. Everyone seems to wait for Dave Meltzer to go and then they just jump on it. Ross says, good. Already knew this as he's been reporting for forever. The Rock has no planned scheduled appearances. Put you over for it amongst other things. I mean, it's one of those where every couple of weeks I have to rumour kill The Rock appearing. Even if I'm completely wrong one day and he does turn up, I'm basically, 9 out of 10? Still pretty happy with that. Spider-Boss says, since WWE doesn't know what to do with the women's tag team titles, why not have a tag team title turmoil match with the titles on the line? Because that would take up a lot more time than they're willing to do for a storyline which doesn't have a storyline. Mark is suggesting a source of his pal, who speaks to QT Marshall, and says, all's good between Punk and Kenny. I've spoken last week, about the disaster talks ongoing, which curiously enough is very similar to what you're saying. Charles misses Dexter Loomis. He's currently on creative hiatus. Sean says, yesterday was the 1-year anniversary of Damage Control and Becky's face turn. Good times indeed. Wrestler Fan says, does WWE have any surprises planned for SummerSlam? Yes, at the very least, the finishes of the matches. Chris says, Dave Meltzer is the gospel, remember? Bentley says, WWE Trios Tag Team Championships, the day is unlikely to come. Will says, with Trish possibly leaving WWE after SummerSlam, have you heard if she might come back around Royal Rumble or WrestleMania 40, or is she is done? She is open to a return, but her contractual appearances will be over. Anand says, is Vince still controlling the majority of booking decisions? He controls every single booking decision. Vince McMahon has to sign off on every creative decision made by Triple H. By and large he does, but he still has to. Anan says, update on Liv Morgan's injury. There is no real update. She came back and wasn't 100%. A further injury has occurred. Very bad luck. Hello, Khalid. How are you doing? And Jaden, hello, sir. Spider-Boss says, I wouldn't mind if Alba Fyre and Isla Dawn challenge Sonya and Chelsea Green for the women's tag team titles. Hopefully that day will come. Jaden says, any Mercedes news? None today, sir. Martin says, hey, mate, managed to jump in while away. Well, thank you very kindly for that, sir. Nice to see you. Also says, hope everyone in chat is good as well. Let's talk the second piece of news then. This is as regards Bray Wyatt. There will be a lot more information as regards the breakdown of the overall return of Bray Wyatt. I'm putting that together over the next couple of days. It will be one that goes live during my hiatus between the 11th and 18th of August. It's quite an in-depth one. It's basically a breakdown of everything that happened to and by Bray Wyatt in the build-up since his return. But Vince McMahon plays a very important role here that I need to discuss. Vince McMahon essentially overruled Triple H around WrestleMania time with the intention of ensuring that Bray Wyatt was featured in a strong performance and a big match at WrestleMania. The match between Bobby Lashley and Bray Wyatt looks like it was going to be a win from Bray Wyatt and would have set Bray Wyatt on the path towards the top again. Unfortunately, the disruption and the fact that Bray Wyatt had not had any part of writing that storyline caused some issues, and Bray Wyatt has not been seen since. So essentially, in Vince McMahon's world, he was trying to help and ensure that Bray Wyatt was heavily featured with a big win at a big show. There were no plans beforehand for Bray Wyatt to feature, especially in a big win at WrestleMania. Triple H essentially, according to Vince McMahon, was dropping the ball on Bray Wyatt, so Vince McMahon stepped in to offer a stronger opportunity. The rest, unfortunately, is history. Sean says, congrats to the D'Angelo family on winning their tag team titles. Daniela says, good evening, Tom. Is there an update on Kofi, Big E, Dakota Kai? When could they return? I do not have any information on Dakota Kai today, but I do have information on the New Day. You might suggest it's a new day. Yes, it is. Trekipedi says, could we see Lita being in Becky's corner to counter Zoe? I don't think that's impossible, but I think it's too late for that to happen now. She would have appeared more recently. Christian says, do you think we'll see Matt Cardona coming back, seeing how green is in the WWE? There is no correlation whatsoever. From what I can tell, Matt Cardona just isn't actually that popular in WWE, and WWE is not that popular in Matt Cardona. Doing well, thank you, Khalid. Great to see you. C-Max says, I don't see The Rock showing up for anything but the Bloodline storyline. If he does show up, I do suspect that will be the play. Richard says, Carmella versus Dragunov was epic. Women's title match was sloppy. Tiffany and Tia need a lot more training. Shouldn't be near the title. Well, unfortunately, when it comes to the top-level talent on NXT, their days in NXT are very much numbered. Christian says, since the women's main tag team division is slim, should Roxanne and Cora get called up together? No. They are on very different sides. Spider-Boss says, do you think WWE rushed Liv Morgan's return despite being not 100% cleared? Yes. Yes, I do. I reported that at the time before Money in the Bank when she did return, she was nearing a return but hadn't been cleared yet, and then she appeared. She hadn't been cleared. She hadn't been fully cleared at the very least. She was not 100%. They took a risk. Anan says, how long will Roman Reigns be champion? Until he loses it. Charles says that Vince needs to sit down. Well, he's just had back surgery. He's now doing a lot of laying down. Martin says, are the Skulls and Blackbirds part of his return? Yes, they are. Bray Wyatt has finally been offered a storyline that he is comfortable with. He is cleared and ready to return. They're just now putting the pieces in place. It is not impossible, to be clear, that Bray Wyatt does appear at SummerSlam. I've already reported everything I possibly can on that and made it clear that Bray Wyatt could well return at SummerSlam. I reported that about a month ago. However, at the moment, it really does depend what the next storyline is going to be. LF says, hi Tom, how long do you think Roman may have time off after SummerSlam? I can't say on that one. It's very much up to him. Christian says, any news on Bray Wyatt's movie, or is it canned? It was not a WWE movie and thus it is cancelled. Joey says, I wish Triple H would hang up the Zoom call on Vince. Not a choice that he has. You can't do that to your boss. Razar says, I think they should let all the women's tag teams appear on all brands, not just the champs, like the tag division should be exempt from brand split rules. That could fix the women's tag division. It could. It would still need TV time, which they're not willing to offer at this point in time. Daniela says, it's a shame they don't sell Bootio cereal in the UK. Thankfully, we've all moved on from that. Spider-Boss says, Drew versus Gunter is big meat and men slapping meat. How do we call Rhea versus Raquel Rodriguez? Whatever the hell we want. Personally, I'm going to go with Rhea versus Raquel Rodriguez. No, Anand, we are not going to see Lita versus Trish Stratus. There is no value or money in that. Chris says Matt Cardona is making more money doing what he's doing now than he could make in the WWE. One of many reasons that WWE is not popular with Matt Cardona. Christian says, I have the feeling The Rock will show up at SummerSlam. Cool. WrestleFan says, Worked Wrestling reported there were pitches to have a Grayson Waller SummerSlam weekend segment. Is this true? Yes. Almost everything that there could be has been pitched. Daniela says, may I ask what happens to the Dolph Ziggler JD McDonough storyline on Raw? They were never technically feuding. They were having a couple of matches. Dolph Ziggler wasn't there for very long. Charles Carmelo and Trick Williams are a package deal. Joey says, do you know who Bray's first feud could be with? I do not have that information, no. Kelly says, very happy to see Bray Wyatt return. Thanks for the news, Tom, mate. No worries. And Danielle says, thanks for answering my questions. I appreciate it. And if you're looking for an update on Randy Orton, check out the main channel where I've uploaded several videos on this topic. They are in-depth and you might want to check it out. Michael says, what do you think about no matches being announced for All In? Personally, while I do see your point about the fact that they've sold so many tickets, I, as someone going to the show, am a little disappointed that I don't know what I'm going to get to see. Yes, Spider-Boss, if there was ever any opportunity to bring back AJ Lee, they would. There hasn't been. There's not going to be. Third piece of news is as regards Gable Steveson. Gable Steveson has seriously disappointed the WWE, both in terms of reception and performance. They're also just very disappointed that he never seems to be there. And while they finally have him in play, even now he's still talking about potentially leaving the company again and going to do other things. He is undoubtedly incredibly successful. He really is. However, when it comes to his WWE career, so far all he's done is put over Baron Corbin. There is nothing wrong with Baron Corbin as an opponent. Baron Corbin should be a guarantee of booze and a guarantee of safety for a green competitor. If you can't get cheered against Baron Corbin, you can't get cheered at all. There is huge disappointment right now with Gable Steveson, and it will affect future plans for him. The fact that he's even in NXT right now is because of certain disappointments with how he's performed. What do you make of the Gable Steveson experiment so far? Martin says, is this an Extreme Rules hint, Tom? I know you can't answer, though it isn't that much of a spoiler warning. Extreme Rules certainly could be an option, given that it's a full rotation. Jungle says, Vince and Bray have no beef? No beef whatsoever. None whatsoever. And Martin's catching up on Great American Bash immediately after the show. Hope you enjoy it. Daniela says, is there a kickoff show match at SummerSlam this Saturday? Nope. Kelly says, I'm glad I'm going to All In. I hope I see Chris Jericho and Sting. You'll definitely see Jericho at least. Anand says, will there be a failed cash-in for Io Sky? Honestly, she didn't deserve to have a failed cash-in. Not going to answer that question. Not going to answer. What I'd love is for you to wait and find out. Peter says, lurking and dropping tables. Welcome, Peter. How you doing, mate? Joey says, were WWE officials not happy with Gable's match against Corbin? No, they were disappointed, as I've said. Spider-Boss says, Fightful reported the original plan for Zelina Vega was to get squashed by Rhea Ripley. Zelina's performance changed it. It was still a very short match. They were very impressed with Zelina, and the intention essentially was to it's called You Catastrophe. It's a John Ronald Reuel Tolkien thing. So the idea is essentially that before the big, wonderful eucatastrophe moment, you get the opposite, a catastrophe. Eucatastrophe is a sudden turn from bad to good. Catastrophe is a sudden turn from good to bad. So what you have is good, Zelina Vega, being absolutely demolished and the crowd going, oh, well, they hate us. And then you have Bad Bunny. Catastrophe, eucatastrophe. That was the intention. You still kind of got that for that reason. Chris says, I thought they announced a Battle Royal to be on the SummerSlam pre-show. I don't believe so. Looks like it's going to be on the main card. Charles says, do you think Jade Cargill comes to the WWE? If she wants to and they want her to, yes. Tristan Sloan says, will Survivor Series have War Games this year? The intention is War Games at the moment, yes. Vegeta thinks that Gable Stevenson looked all right. What I will say as regards Gable Stevenson, they were expecting a lot more than all right. Joey says, I think Gable's better as a heel than forcing him to work as a babyface. Yeah, there's a lot of reasons for that, as I can see being discussed in the chat, which are not unfair. Anan says, your early Royal Rumble picks, I mentioned on Friday. The current discussions are for Liv Morgan and Io Sky. Mark disagrees, says I thought what Gable did was really good, got me more invested in him. You're never going to get cheered when Corbin has knew everything and did great. Once again, if you can't get if you can't get cheered against Baron Corbin, you're not going to get cheered. Buttery says, is Bray Wyatt returning at SummerSlam? Good question. Dr. Cortez Smith is throwing trolls. Keep going. Keep making stuff up. I'm not going to be concerned by it. Keep going. Loving so many people saying hi troll. If you do see a troll, when it comes to dealing with trolls in the chat, please do two things. One, say hi to the troll. Two, say bye to the troll. That's all I want. It's wonderful. Play with the trolls. They're not hurting my feelings, and if we ever do get to the point where they're trying to hurt feelings, they will go bye-bye. We have good people here. Sean says, Aaliyah James has confirmed her departure from WWE. She was a part of NXT UK. She was indeed. She didn't really get a fair rub of the green there for me. Martin says, Sting, such a shame didn't work in WWE. Kudos on returning with spinal stenosis. I know that pain every day. Sorry to hear that, mate. Chris says, give me War Games all day, every day. Second most favourite match behind the Royal Rumble. The Rumble is absolutely unstoppable. Anand says, will there be one more Dom versus Ray match at next year's WrestleMania? Unlikely next year's WrestleMania. Quite possibly again in the future. Yes. Tristan's asking if there's going to be a pay-per-view in December this year. To my knowledge, there isn't one planned at the moment. Richard says, I hope Vince signs off on Io versus Asuka and not just a feud. That'll be an epic match. Gable match was okay. I couldn't understand why WWE are disappointed. Io versus Asuka has been signed off while Vince McMahon is in his current position. I've reported that 2 months ago, I think it was. And then literally on the day of reporting that, we first got the two of them stepping in a ring about the build to the Money in the Bank. One says, Vince still making changes in the hospital? Pretty possible. Not in the hospital. He's at home resting, and he gets dialed in on Zoom. Spider-Boss says, 1 year since Bayley's return, bad booking and questionable decisions. I can only say it's good to have Bayley back. Bayley, by and large, has made her own decisions on this one, what I will say. And I think it's worth considering that she's put a lot of people over by doing so. Will says, have you heard if WWE are planning on pushing a new woman that we're not thinking about in the upcoming year? Yeah. They're always thinking about pushing new people. Martin says, does the Doctor miss house calls or troll calls? Love it, love it. Spider-Boss says, it's such a shame that Undertaker never wanted to face Sting in WWE. Who's told you that, Spider-Boss? Who told you that? Tristan says, you said Vince McMahon has a good relationship with Bray Wyatt. That is true. Why did Vince fire Bray back in 2021? Bray Wyatt's name appeared on Nick Khan's cost-benefit analysis lists a number of times, and someone high up, possibly Vince McMahon himself, took his name off. Vince actually prevented Bray Wyatt from being fired a number of times. I reported that the day that Bray was fired, I reported that. It was a long time ago, and I know a lot of you weren't here for it, but I reported at the time. The cost-benefit analysis list were put together by Nick Khan. Vince McMahon protected Bray Wyatt, but it eventually came to a point where he couldn't protect him anymore. Joey says, do you think WWE will let go of Gable since he hasn't worked on the main roster yet? Not yet. Not yet. We're not there yet. Daniela says, I hope half of the Battle Royal isn't filled with tag teams. There's a lot of singles talent. Razar says, Gable was average at best, not worth the hype for someone they're positioning as a future top star. Terrible things he's accused of don't help why people dislike him either. Anand says, any update on Edge? Looks like there are no creative plans for Edge. Not at this point in time, no. Khalid says, Tom, is WWE done with the TLC pay-per-view? It seems so at the moment, yes. Marcel says, what's next for Cody after Brock? Different feuds. I suspect Finn Balor may be involved. Joey says, are KO and Sami going to get new opponents instead of the Judgment Day? There may still be a little bit of action between the two teams, but Street Profits certainly are who I've got my eye on. Spider-Boss says he remembers in interviews, Sting said interview rejected working with him at WrestleMania 31. Okay. Sting may have said that, but what you've said is he never wanted to face Sting in the WWE. Never. What actually happened there was, Undertaker had already been pitched Bray Wyatt, and Undertaker really loves Bray Wyatt and wanted to push him. Spider-Boss says, how do you rate Rhea's title reign now? So far, so good. She needs some big name opponents. We haven't got there yet. Vegeta says, seems Vince loves Bray. He does. Charles says, Vince needs to get rid of Nick. He absolutely doesn't. He absolutely doesn't. Ed says, I can confirm I moderated that stream. You did. It was impromptu as well. Dad says, do you know if All In is a pay-per-view or just a normal show? All In's a pay-per-view, mate. Joey says, does Edge have control with who he works with? Limited, yes. Not creative control. Eric says, any news on why Liv and Charlotte got cancelled for the movie? I'm not aware that the WWE has pulled anyone from a movie. As Ed points out, there is a strike on at the moment. Anand says, which of the AEW wrestlers WWE will likely be going for once their AEW contract ends? No clue. Chris says, seems like lots of people love Bray Wyatt, myself included. And Tristan says, when will Raw and SmackDown be getting new stages this year? No. I'm assuming that was the question, the whole question. LA Knight will be kicking off his push at SummerSlam. He's in fact basically already hit the jump-off point. I have uploaded a video onto the members only section where there is a lot more detail on everything that has happened to LA Knight in the past year or so since Triple H came back and changed his name. There are a number of promised pushes which did not happen. However, the moment is finally about to come for LA Knight. SummerSlam, the Battle Royal, has been added to be a showcase for LA Knight. Jimmy Uso is also planned to return at or after SummerSlam. He is planned to be in attendance for SummerSlam, but will be going forwards, making his full return at, the SmackDown after. Jimmy Uso is not currently planned to turn on Jey Uso. There is no plan to isolate Jey Uso. The Usos will still be a tag team. They've shown previously the loyalty between them. No intention at this point in time for a breakup or a heel turn from Jimmy Uso. There's still a lot to cover, but I'm loving how many questions we're getting. I'll be sure to answer as many of them as I can. For those who have not done so yet, please do consider hitting the like button. We have 85 people here and 47 likes. 3 more gets us to 50 likes, and I would very much appreciate that. Also, if it's your first time here, I can see a number of names that I'm not particularly familiar with. Please do consider hitting the subscribe button. It does mean you'll get a notification every time we go live on this channel, and you will know first and foremost where the news is coming from. Spider-Boss says Roxanne Perez had a great performance at Great American Bash. Hope she gets called up to the main roster. Chris says LA wins the Battle Royal and this will lead to his run at the US title. Sai says, Tom, what time is your special live stream tomorrow? So, I was going to announce this a little later, but Sai's already on the case, and Sai, of course, has been making the graphics for it. There will be tomorrow, same spoiler warning time, 10 p.m. UK, 5 p.m. Eastern. We will be going live with a special edition of Nick and Tom's Intercontinental Adventure, the show that I have on PWTorch that many of you are already aware of, and some of you actually found this show because of. Welcome to so many of you. Nick and Tom's Intercontinental Adventure features myself and Nick Barbatti. We will be going live with question and answer, a mailbag. He's got a few emails that he'll be reading out, and of course we'll be asking for your questions and your predictions also. It will be capped at about 45 minutes to an hour. We cannot go beyond that. It will not be the usual answering every single question. That simply isn't possible in that format, but I hope to see as many of you there as possible as well. Tomorrow, same spoiler warning time, a special mailbag edition of Nick and Tom's Intercontinental Adventure. Ross says Sting Taker was too late by the time he got there. I agree with that. Will says WWE stocks being up so high, will that help with nobody losing their jobs? I've discussed it at some length. The reason that we haven't seen any releases, and in fact WrestleVotes did report that there were going to be major releases in July. Haven't exactly got long to finish that off, have they? The main reason that there hasn't been anything like that is because they've managed to increase their revenue primarily through the continentalization that they've been doing in order to ensure that Oh, thank you very much, Martin. In order to ensure that... It's distracting me slightly. In order to ensure that there is more money coming in from different countries in the bidding war for more WWE content. Thank you very much, Martin, for gifting a membership to the channel. It has gone to Joey. Joey, you are now able to access emotes, including the tables, and also any and all of the members only content that we have. There are a few breakdowns of the news that I have shared and gone into more detail on. For example, Liv Morgan, Sasha Banks and her leaving the company as well, and the video I believe yesterday from LA Knight. Not from LA Knight, about LA Knight. Richard says, does WWE Creative have plans for the Street Profits heel turn? More on that shortly. C-Mac says, where's Matt Riddle? At the moment, he's acting as a spoiler between Drew McIntyre and Gunter. He has no real plans of his own. Vegeta says, KO, not sure about his future. He means retirement or going to AEW. Not sure what you're talking about there, Vegeta. We have not discussed KO's future at the moment. So you should, Khalid. Dane says, will LA Knight win any titles anytime soon? We currently have a video on the members only section on that. It will be going live in the public area within 2 weeks. Charles says, Rhea needs to face a heavy hitter female wrestler. I agree. Eric says, with KO's injury, do you think him and Sammy will have to drop the titles? Possibly yes, but I don't think they'll rush it. I think they'll wait for him to return. Devil says, Randy return at SummerSlam. My reports on Randy Orton are in the video section. Please do check them out. And Daniela says, smash the like button if you haven't already. Appreciate that, Daniela. Appreciate this as well, Eric, who's gone and confirmed. I reported that Asuka versus Io Sky, the build is beginning on June 15th. Thank you very much for confirming that, Eric. At some point, as I've said previously, I want to start a thread on Twitter, Zwitter, Shitter, one of those, basically detailing all of the reports that I've had proven correct. Firstly, it'll be a really, really long thread. And secondly, it'll attract a lot of trolls, which means a lot of people are going to see it. Thank you very much, Tristan. Barton says, welcome everyone who is new. You won't go wrong with a legend, Tom. Thank you kindly, mate. Thank you kindly. Giles says, you're doing a phenomenal job, sir. Thank you as well. No worries, Si. Don't worry about it. Sean says, I thought Roxanne would lose since Bash was in Texas. Wrestlers 9 out of 10 times losing their hometown or home state, which is not true. It is closer to about 6 out of 10. Tristan, yes, Bray Wyatt news was a second piece. Michael says, I always thought Bray should have broken the Taker streak. So did Taker, but he also thought Randy Orton should. Spider-Boss says, sometimes it gets boring seeing Rhea Ripley messing with men. Rhea Ripley has there's two Rhea Ripleys. I've mentioned this before. There is a Rhea Ripley who's involved with Judgment Day and working with men. And there is a Rhea Ripley who is currently the women's champion. Wikipedia says, you guys all rule in the chat. Very nice to see. Kevin says, good evening, Tom. Let's say hypothetically The Rock does make a return one day. Would the information on him returning be so readily available as much as it seems to be thrown out to Meltzer? No, because here's the thing. Information isn't thrown out to Meltzer. He reports, The Rock's coming back. Then a couple of days later he reports, no, he isn't. And all of the news outlets out there report both of them, which is ridiculous. Martin says, I'm going to gift memberships every month, Tom. You deserve it. I promise to you and chat can witness it. Thank you, Mark. That's very generous of you. I really do appreciate that. I just want to stress that you absolutely do not have to, but I'm obviously not going to complain either. Thank you kindly, sir. Joey says, do you know why they added the Battle Royal to SummerSlam? Yes, I do. You can watch the video on that in the LA Knight section. Barry says, where it's going on the accurate name might be Shitter. Mine just says, it's X now. I can't get over it. Michael says, Andrade wants Malachi for All In. I'm all in for it. He says all for it, but I added a bit. Dom says, I've seen Undertaker say that Bray should have gone back to his old character. Don't get why everyone is saying The Undertaker is bringing Bray back at SummerSlam. Wishful thinking and making it up. Vegeta is glad they weren't releases. Me too. And Charles says, what do you think The Undertaker says to Bray Wyatt? What do you mean says? They've had like 1,000 conversations over the years. They work together a lot. Next piece of news. Drew McIntyre versus Gunter has been a year in the making, and Triple H in particular is thrilled that we are finally getting the one-on-one match. About a year ago, I reported that there were talks for Drew McIntyre to face Gunther at WrestleMania. I believe it was around September time that I started reporting it. Shortly afterwards, it was reported that the WrestleMania match would be Gunther versus Brock Lesnar. Yeah. That, of course, did not happen. I remained at that point reporting that it would be Drew McIntyre versus Gunther at WrestleMania. What actually happened was that Sheamus was added to this, largely because Drew McIntyre was working hurt. Drew McIntyre was working hurt for a while. In fact, the entire tag team with Sheamus was based around the fact that Drew McIntyre could not go full throttle. Couldn't go full throttle, so had to be protected by being put in that tag team. He's now returned from a rest after WrestleMania, and after his injuries, there was no ongoing issue with Drew McIntyre. There was no intention by him to leave the company. There was no contact with AEW. Anyone who reported any of that was lying to you. Cool. Martin says, it's fine, mate. Want to push you as much as possible. You deserve it. Anyone who works hard on YouTube deserves it and want to share the love. Thank you kindly, mate. Now I'm going to read out what Sai said here, and I want to make sure everyone understands what he's saying. Thank you, Sai, for saying this. Can we drop the chat about legal cases, please? It's either alleged or unfounded, which means in both cases it's not a story. Thanks. We take pride in being the most well-informed chat in wrestling. In order to do that, we also have to be able to say what we don't know. And when there are active legal cases ongoing, we don't chase. Okay? You have to be very careful how you word things, and I absolutely cannot endorse what people are saying. Just wanted to be clear on that. Tristan says, any SummerSlam surprises? Yes, the matches. We haven't seen them yet, so that'd be a surprise. Spiderboss says 1 year after, and Raj Giri still hasn't confirmed his report on Mercedes money, Sasha Banks getting fired by WWE after her walkout. Again, I've reported what I've reported on this one. Her contract did continue until the end of last year. Joey says, Zero News also said Clash of the Castle would leave fans crying. To be fair, that sing-along was a bit brutal. Trekkiepedia says, I appreciate what you do, Tom. Thank you kindly. C-Max says, Thunder Rosa really back? No, she's coming back. Tristan says, do you know the exact date the WWE Endeavour sale will finalise? Nope, because it hasn't finalised yet, and until it does, there is no exact date. So, next up. I've reported this before, I want to mention it one more time. When it comes to... Oh, thank you, Michael, I appreciate that. He didn't say she was fired, he said they accepted her release. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate you. On the ball, mate. You're very good at this. Next piece of news. I've reported this before as regards Damian Priest, but the reason Damian Priest has won Money in the Bank and the reason Damian Priest is in a position to be the next World Heavyweight Champion is Vince McMahon. Under Triple H, this push would not have happened. Instead, the push would have gone to someone else, though LA Knight would potentially have been the one to get it. Damian Priest got the nod ahead because of the negotiations going on between Vince McMahon and Triple H for LA Knight's push. Next up, the Mysterio head injury. Rey Mysterio was checked for a concussion backstage. He did pick up a head injury early in the match, well before the commercial break, and did continue, or at least attempt to continue, after telling the referee multiple times, I'm gonna keep going. He actually put up with some quite intense spots and played his part, but that may have been largely muscle memory. May have been largely muscle memory on that one. The match was cancelled after the commercial break. The ref essentially made the decision to cancel it and give Santos Escobar the win, but there was a genuine concern. Rey Mysterio was checked for concussion. To my knowledge, there is no concussion, but he has been told to take a rest and have a recover. I can't be upset about that. Sai says, appreciate you guys, a difficult issue, don't want any of it reflected in this channel. The chat can get this channel shut down. It can. And I need to be careful of that. Spider-Bell says, I thought fans would riot when Drew lost a Clash at the Castle. The thing is, until people started reporting, oh, Drew's winning, nobody expected him to win. Nobody. So remember the people who did report that was going to happen, because once again, they lied to you. Charles says, do you think any UFC fighters are coming to the WWE? Yes. Daniela says, could there be any returning superstars at SummerSlam? There is always a possibility. LS says, do you see any of the elders like Rikishi or the Wild Samoans showing up for the tribal combat match? Not an impossibility. Marcel says, how many cherry cokes do you have? We always have a conversation about this and we always do the guessing game. So, on the 7th of July, my birthday, I was given 48 cans of Cherry Coke Zero. 48 cans. I'm into Cherry Coke. The Zero stuff, not this stuff, just to be clear. I also had a bottle of it. I got a little care package from my partner. It was beautiful. Anyway, how many cans do you think I have left of that 48? On Friday, I had 11. Jordan says, Tom, I found your channel when you talked about Uncle Howdy and Uncle Harper around the time Bray returned. Just want to say my knowledge and passion for wrestling news has greatly improved, so thank you. Thank you very much for that, Jordan. That is an amazing compliment. I really try to ensure that this is, as I've said previously, the most well-informed chat in wrestling. That is our niche. That is our MO. That is what we try to do. And it's a huge compliment to me that you are finding your knowledge increasing based on that. That's a huge compliment. I thank you for that. Spiderball says, when Rhea Ripley gets an RKO, the pop from fans will be loud. Boss Pedal says you have 0 left. Sean believes I have 8. Brad thinks I have 4. Billy thinks I have 5. Marcel 7. Cy 5. Zane 8. Charles 2. Eric 6. Jack 8. Ken 8. Daniela 1. 2 Super says 8. Spiderboss says 5. Lots of people thinking I'm having 1 a day. I am not. It was a lazy weekend. The first person to get it right was Billy Crystal. 5 cans remain. I will be going downstairs after this and probably having 1 more. I don't think there'll be any left come Friday. I really don't. 5 cans remain. I love this game. We need to be doing this more often somehow in some way. Joey says, imagine if Omos and Uncle Howdy the big SummerSlam returns. Eric says, do you think Randy comes out after the J Roman match to announce he's up next? No. Why would that happen? Eric says, Zero News reported Drew McIntyre was going to win a Clash at the Castle and got roasted because of it, and yet somehow still gets to report news. Spiderboss says, when it comes to Mercedes money news and Becky Lynch news, people should trust in spoiler warning. Thank you kindly, I appreciate that. Richard says, hi Tom, is Gable set to have a singles push or stay in a tag team with Otis? Stay in the tag team for now. Martin says, I can confirm that through running my own channel. The tat is your best friend but can be your worst nightmare as well. Don't mean anyone here, just generally there are terms and conditions Tom must agree on. I've spoken previously about what I call the good faith agreement, which is simply that if you're bringing anything to this chat, it has to be brought in good faith. As long as it is, I will always back you. Any question in good faith, I will try to answer. Joey says, Zero didn't take accountability for reporting anything wrong. He pointed the finger at other people. How many people in wrestling media who do report stuff backstage have ever taken responsibility for it? Hey, Martin, you know we peek behind the curtain here. When it comes to YouTube, I want to help people be as good at YouTube and content creation as they can be. Yeah, I'm also planning something on that soon. Little series. You might enjoy it. Jordan says, new create a cherry coke for SummerSlam then. You want me to die? No, Tristan, I've not played 2K23. 2 Super says, personally, where do you think Solo goes after this Bloodline feud? I believe he is the next tribal chief. Boss Pedal says, I enjoyed Corbin getting loudly cheered despite purely heel work. Can't read the next bit and you know that, Boss Pedal. You know that. No, I have not seen Twisted Metal at this point in time, Charles. Full-time job. And parenting as well. I don't have that much time. Spiderboss says, PWInsider said Carlito was coming back to WWE. Still no sign of Carlito and people still believing PWInsider. one of the things I'm most proud of is that we remember things here. Martin says, I played the trailer on PS5, it's okay but not worth the money. Two Super says, do you think Heyman will stay by Solo's side? Heyman is not at Solo's side, he is very much at Roman's side. Joey says, I bet those cherry coats will be gone by SummerSlam. Hell yeah, they will. Eric says, wrestling dirt sheet media takes no responsibility for their actions. So I said, I don't know what Peacock showed on the Great American Bash, but the network had a full 2-minute video hyping Charlotte, wanting the belt at SummerSlam. They were really driving it home. They do that on all the pay-per-views. Peacock, unfortunately, has ad breaks. It's weird, isn't it? It's weird. Paul Heyman and Imperium. Gunter, in interview Sportskeeda, has teased the idea of Paul Heyman managing Imperium, meaning that essentially Gunter will have a mouthpiece in the form of basically the greatest talker in wrestling today. Now, I don't necessarily see this happening. I think Paul Heyman will stay with whomever the tribal chief might be, but consider just for a moment, because I wanted to talk about this, Paul Heyman and Imperium. Just think about it for a moment. Paul Heyman and Imperium. Spider-Boss says the Spear and Samoan Spike combo on SmackDown looked great. And Tristan says, will there be any NXT call-ups? Quite possibly. Quite possibly. You know certain questions I never answer, regardless of if I know or not. Regardless. Mike says, do you and your sources sit and talk about what's going on in the WWE, or is it more like a Q&A? Bit of both. Sometimes I'll contact people to try and confirm something, then I'm asking them questions. And then we have what I love to call journalistic chicken, which is, hey, what can you tell me about this? Well, what do you know? Well, what can you tell me? But what do you know? Well, what can you tell me? But what do you know? Which is always fun. Always fun. And yeah, sometimes I'm just chatting with friends. It tends to be that wrestlers are wrestling fans too. The Street Profits have confirmed that it was never pitched to them that there would be any form of formal breakup. There was talk about it in the creative team, but there was no actual plans that got through to the Street Profits themselves. It was being teased with an intention to do so, however the WWE pulled back because they started to run out of tag teams and Triple H wasn't a big fan of the idea. Which is essentially how we got to the place we are now, where the Street Profits are about to be one of the biggest factions in wrestling. It's going to be fun. Martin says, do you or anyone watch the Dark Side of the Ring? I know people who do. Personally, I have not. Trekipedia says, could Braun and Cora be brought up together? Everything is on the table. Joey says, I think Dragunov is too good to be in NXT. He's more than ready for the main roster. Can you tell me 3 things about Dragunov's personality? Charles says, hi Tom, happy Monday to you. WWE is good. I agree. Been doing good stuff recently. Isaac says, do you think we'll start seeing teasers for Bray soon? We've already seen several teasers for Bray, usually in backstage segments. Sean says, I'd like to see heel Street Profits. You may get your wish. Little something on what I'm doing over the next few weeks. I'm currently putting together a number of videos that will go live during what would be spoiler warning time while I'm in my hiatus. I'm taking a break from the 11th of August until the 18th. That will mean that I miss a spoiler warning, a SmackDown watch party, and then a further spoiler warning on the Monday. I will be back in time for the 18th, a spoiler warning and SmackDown. So I'm looking at least 2 videos to go live when spoiler warning normally would, as well as a bit more in the meantime, just to basically remind YouTube that I exist. Amongst that, I've mentioned the LA Knight video that's already in the members only section. That will, of course, be coming forwards when it comes to that hiatus. That will be going on to the main section. I'm also putting together, after SummerSlam, early WrestleMania predictions. So early predictions for the WrestleMania card based on what information I have now and where WWE seem to be going. So you'll also have that as well. I'm also putting together a little something as regards content creation. If you are someone who's looking to be a pro wrestling YouTuber, or if you already have a channel, I want to try and give you some guidance as to how to develop as best you can. I've been asked by a few people, some of whom are in this channel right now, for a little bit of help, and I've really quite enjoyed it. I can't speak for them. Hopefully they're willing to speak up and say if that's the case. I've certainly tried a few different options, and I think we've had some good results. And I'd like to go a little further with that and create some videos, essentially, how to be a pro wrestling journalist. Yes, KJ, it does, because I like how you do things. I think you're doing a good job. And when I've contacted you, it's been a case of, hey, add the year. Let's put the year in the title. Stuff like that. So how to be a pro wrestling journalist, how to be a pro wrestling content creator, how to make it on pro wrestling YouTube, stuff like that. Short videos detailing this is what you need to do in order to make it in the field that I'm doing. These are the secrets of my success, because I'm not going to hoard it. I don't do that. I'm not going to hoard information. There are reasons I'm doing so well at the moment. A large part of it is you guys, and I can explain why that's the case. So we have two very conflicting answers here. Joey, when asked the question about the character of Dragunov, says his character is irrelevant. He's one of the best wrestlers in the company. Being a good wrestler isn't good enough. It's not. Meanwhile, 2 Super is ready. Says Dragunov likes classical music, likes European uppercuts, and is Russian, which in wrestling is a personality trait. All 3 of which are very fair comments. Very, very different opinions there. Your wrestling character and your personality is in no way irrelevant. You do not get over on wrestling anymore. Absolutely not. There's too much good wrestling. KJ says being a good wrestler doesn't mean you go to the main roster. In my opinion, he won't connect on the main roster a crowd if he's alone. I agree with that one. I think that also happens with Dexter Lumis, who's a very good wrestler, but it doesn't matter. Isaac says, what does the winner of the SummerSlam Battle Royal get? I believe it is a United States Championship opportunity based on what LA Knight said on SmackDown. Joey says it means a lot of things. If you're not good in the ring, then you won't be over. Do you like Bray Wyatt? My genuine question, do you like Bray Wyatt? I think that very much disproves the point. Charles says, do you know if any indie wrestlers are coming to the WWE? Yes, many of them. John says, that would be cool. Nice to know. Nice to know. Boss Pedal says, if they see a replacement for Elton in Pretty Deadly temporarily, got a blonde wig and stick-on chest hair ready for Elton Benjamin. Okay. Spider Boss says, I like how you explain every detail about wrestling news. I try to. There's quite a lot going on in wrestling at all times, and I try to make it as clear as possible. Trekkie PD says, hoping Big E will be back soon. He has a really great attitude. I do have something on that shortly. Please do remember that you can hit like on the video. We have 86 people watching and 59 likes. One more gets us to 60. And in fact, in addition to that, please remember that you can hit subscribe if you haven't already. Still over, Joey. Still over. So, New Day. All 3 members of the New Day are considered to be extremely close to being cleared for a return to action. They will naturally be so careful with Big E, but Kofi Kingston is near as damn it. Xavier Woods, quite close. Big E, also believed to be quite close to being cleared. The WWE have started putting together creative plans for an impending return for the New Day. Now that they're putting together creative plans, I believe it is only a matter of time. After all, not long ago I reported that Drew McIntyre would be returning shortly, and they were planning a match between he and Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship at SummerSlam. Here we are. KJ says, everyone like the video now, or else I'll pause the video of my special powers. Special powers. As Spider Boss, I don't really follow AEW enough to speculate as to what matches will be on the card. The WWE are not planning to immediately throw Dragunov against Gunther. This may mean that he ends up joining Gunther. There is talk of that with Imperium because fans are really behind it and Triple H is listening. However, there are concerns, particularly from Vince, that Dragunov is starting to be defined by Gunther in the eyes of fans. This may result in a further separation. 2 Super says, do you think Dragon Lee will hold a title in NXT by this time next year? Don't watch enough NXT, couldn't tell you. Moises says, hey Tom, will R-Truth ever return? Yes, he will. He will not be the same. KJ says, Big E will probably wrestle in tag matches where Kofi and Woods or both do most of the ring work. Yeah, That's what I expect. The fact that they have the free bird rule essentially protects anyone from really stepping out and having to overexert themselves. It's a good thing. No, Alyssa, I've not seen the Cody Rhodes documentary. That is all of my news. Tomorrow we'll be live once again with a live Nick and Tom's Intercontinental Adventure. It'll be here on the channel, and then on Saturday it will go live on PWTorch's Dailycast. It is a mailbag, so please bring your questions to myself and Nick. It'll be at spoiler warning times, 10 p.m. UK time, 5 p.m. Eastern time. In the meantime, there will be plenty more videos appearing on this channel, and of course the shorts will continue to come thick and fast. So, wrapping up there, I've been Tom Colohue. You have been fantastic. I'll see you all very soon.